本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It's Friday, October 2nd, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 349. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me today, Rob Zachney.
How's it going?
Patrick Klepek.
All right, so I cleared that chamber, and
Good.
now the quit
Okay.
progress
Cannot believe we're doing
saved
this.
less than a minute ago.
This is against the rules.
Is
You
it?
can't game while potting.
Oh, was that?
Patrick, you're
Wow.
my right flank on podcast timeliness. You're Mr. Like, we need to get things started. People need
Yeah,
to get
and you know
ready
what? You
at
know
the
what, Rob?
appointed time.
4 years in, no one fucking listens to me. So,
I'm
like,
playing Hades.
so, you know what? Like, I'm sorry, I don't. You're breaking norms? I can break the norms too. I can do whatever I want.
Oh
I'm
my
not gonna
God.
sit here and like adhere to this policy of like, well, I should do the things
Someone
the
cut
right
his
way.
fucking mic. Also joining us, Ricardo Contreras.
Oh shit! Hi there.
Kato,
Oh,
you excited
shit.
about Steven Smash?
I was gonna do a bit and then I fucked it up.
Kato, are you excited about Steve in Smash?
Yeah, sure. The
Steve
internet
broke the
is.
internet.
Steve
Yeah.
broke the
Well,
fucking internet.
Is it excited? Is something excited when it breaks from people yelling about a thing? Is that excitement?
Yeah, that's
Even if
the-
it's a negative yelling?
I feel like it was actually pretty positive. I like looked
All
around.
right, that's good to hear.
And
I haven't
a lot of
watched.
people were very.
I saw
excited
a
about
GIF, and that's kind of it. What was? Can you just hit this up top? Let's just
Yeah.
talk about Steve.
Is real quick. Steve.
This is
broke-
End Alex. Who the fuck is Alex?
Let's talk about
Alex is-
Steve as my new indie drama
Yeah.
coming from A24.
What we talk about when we talk about Steve.
There's only
My
one Steve
Minecraft
in
book.
the universe, and it's the Minecraft Steve. Minecraft Steve is coming to Smash Brothers Ultimate. No further information because their actual announcement will drop during Minecon in 2 days. It was just like an announcement of an announcement of like, hey,
This video is very funny.
Yeah.
This video is like Mario gets smashed into like the side of a mountain or something, and it's like in all dark everything, and then Steve just shows up with a fucking pickaxe like
yeah,
it's a gun.
like, there he
It's
is.
sick. I love it.
It's wild. I think this is, well, I guess Mr. Game & Watch is in the game, but apart from that, I feel like this is one of the more visually distinct characters as far as aesthetics go. Like everyone else seems to kind of fit a certain style of their
Guess so.
characters.
Yeah, I guess
but
that's
like
true.
even like Snake or whatever, like it's like the Smash Brothers version of Snake, right? Like there's like a certain visual fidelity that they all kind of have, and then you have this blocky ass motherfucker coming in.
That's just who he is.
yeah,
You can't. If
it's
they
good.
had done
It's great.
smooth Steve, if they had done
Smooth
rounded
Steve.
Steve,
No, there's no other version of him that can
There's no
exist
other-
in the
right.
universe. It's the only way
Right.
they could have done it, but it's still really great to see amongst all these other like normal looking characters in Smash. I'm excited to see what apparently they need. According to Sakurai, during this like little mini announcement, they needed to change certain stages because of things that he can do. So I assume there's going to be some sort of block placing mechanic.
can't wait.
And so that'll
Can't wait to build a
that'll be
shitty
interesting.
house.
Yeah.
In Smash.
Turns out Smash is Fortnite now. You're building.
Great. If he can pocket like blocks and then bring them out,
Right.
that would be very fun.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That
That sounds like maybe what they were talking about when they had to like edit stages. Like, oh, we have to like
We're gonna
cut
get-
these up into fucking blocks so that Steve can pick
Right.
them up and shit.
also we're gonna get like Smash Brothers remixes of Minecraft music now.
um,
Right? Because there's going to be a Minecraft stage,
Yeah.
and it's going to be like
It has-
hyper versions of the chill lo-fi beats to Minecraft 2.
oh, but
That
those
is the
chill
soundtrack.
beats are
Good?
so chill.
That's
Oh,
that soundtrack is
Yeah.
great, and so it's
It's
going to be very
fucking-
funny to hear that. But like,
but it's all
them
very
trying to beat the shit out of Star Fox.
it's all very chill music. It's all very slow, kind of ambient stuff, and it's
Yeah.
really nice. I've listened to that album a lot on its own. It doesn't feel like a thing you should be fighting as like there's no like I mean, I think there's maybe one like track that they added later on, but like the original soundtrack is
Sure.
very ambient, just like you're wandering through nature, kind of sounding synth stuff, and it'll be interesting to see what they include or how they change it to make it more like fast paced, because none of it is fast paced as far as I can remember.
Yeah, people are apparently mad it wasn't Sora. People were really pulling for Sora.
That's next. I mean, they're just going down the list at this point.
Not gonna happen.
There's
Not a chance. Kingdom Hearts fans are used to heartbreak and tragedy.
well,
Look,
the idea that they would
Minecraft
get
fans,
Sora,
Minecraft fans have been
you-
wanting Minecraft Steve and Smash for decades now. How long has Minecraft been out? I don't know.
Decade now.
Decade now.
We've always played Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't remember?
It was my
and it was
first
always made
game.
by Microsoft, and everyone has no problems with anything that has to do with Minecraft.
Wait, yeah, I mean, noted Microsoft employee Hatsune
Oh,
Miku.
yeah, right. Yes. God. Let me just, I'm going to say this is more enjoyable than yesterday's video game Twitter drama, new Peter Parker. Only because the new Peter Parker discourse upset me, because the people who are mad at it are right, and I don't want to be aligned with mad gamers, but I am.
I'm not mad. I just think it's like it doesn't. So okay,
Can you set it up?
So yes. So alongside Miles Morales, the like kind of expansion, like a Lost Legacy sort of like Spider-Man release that's happening alongside the PS5 launch in November. They are doing a Spider-Man Remastered, in which they are re-releasing the old game, but you only get can you buy Spider-Man Remastered separately, or is it only part of Miles Morales Ultimate? I don't know. I feel like there is a chart somewhere.
Every single time this issue comes up, I feel I need to like read chicken entrails and like consult the high priest of the console generation leap.
It's a nightmare, but so they are, to Insomniac's credit, they seem to be doing like a lot of like really cool work to this update, adding ray tracing, and it's 60 frames a second, and it looks beautiful. It was already a gorgeous game, and it seems like it's only going to be like even prettier in this version. But they have decided to like there are layers to the casting of Peter Parker. Like there is someone who does the voice and the facial capture, but then that is not necessarily who is doing like the character that is represented, in the same way that
The
like
voices
like Naughty Dog has gotten in hot water over like casting white actors to play black characters. Like it is true in Spider-Man that the person speaking the voice is not the same like body structure, that is not them represented
because he's a
physically
49-year-old man.
Correct.
The voice of Peter Parker is Yuri Lowenthal, who is like an all-time well-regarded.
I just interviewed him a couple weeks ago, actually, for the
See?
Prince of Persia remake.
Because he's the white
he's the
dude
prince.
playing right.
great.
Because they're doing
So
and
full
they kept
circle
him,
on
and
the-
they kept him. They kept him. They're doing a remaster, and they
We
brought him
talked
back.
about that. They changed a lot, by the way, for that. Like it's an Indian led studio that's making that. They changed a lot of it. Their justification, because like Lowenthal himself sounded like he might have been the most uncomfortable with the decision to retain him. He was like, they decided that they really
Not
wanted
so
that
uncomfortable. He won't
performance.
cast the check, but
Yeah. But I get it. He's a really good voice actor. His approach to some of these characters is really good. He's popular for a reason. But yeah, he is one of those, like you look up his IMDb and like you will be shocked at how many characters
yes,
that are voiced by him.
100%. He's been around for decades, doing like huge characters in cartoons and animation and anime and games, and I think he's even been in some like movie like stuff. So yeah, like he's
And he did a good Peter Parker. Like
he did a good Peter Parker. I liked his role. I liked his Pete.
I liked, and I did not know this. Playing Spider-Man PS4, because Insomniac's take is that like this is like 10 years into him being Spider-Man. It's not an origin story. It's like he's seen some shit. Like he's done some shit.
He's late on rent.
Yeah, like the game opens with him like getting potentially booted out of his apartment. So it's like a different sort of like lived in Peter Parker and Spider-Man, which was kind of refreshing given all the other like cinematic takes that we've seen on the character. And I didn't know he was 23 in the game. Sure, whatever. Canonically, you can call him 23. That's fine. Insomniac has their choices that they have made from a story perspective.
Yeah.
In no world did I play that game thinking like this is a bright and bushy 23-year-old.
No, I thought he was like 28. 30.
Yeah, that
It's
character
very
felt
clever
like
to make him a grad student because that covers like prematurely aged. Totally believable. Could he be 23? Absolutely. Could he be 30? Equally believable.
And because of like the stuff that just everything about that character, the performance, the way they contextualize like his role as Spider-Man, just like came across as someone like at least mid-20s, but like really like late 20s, like looking at the 3-0 and like trying to figure out where their life is. And this like new character model, like the new person they've signed up to be like the face of Peter Parker. This is a boy. This is like a much more. This is like what an actual 23-year-old looks like. It's a.
I guess you're right, but he reads so much younger than that.
I agree. I think two things are at play. One, this is like for our circle, like people look younger than you think.
Yeah.
Like that is the thing that as you get older, you forget how young people look, and so. Yes, I think two things can be true. That yes, this looks like a child, and also a 23-year-old often looks like a child. Like I think those things can. So speaking as someone that looks perpetually like a child and will until they are roughly 65, like I get that. But the reason I didn't care for the change is it feels like, again, they can say he's 23 all they want. Like that can be what they established in the story. But the character I played, like the character that felt contextualized in the story, and especially the way Mary Jane looks, like this relationship doesn't necessarily look like these are people with like appropriate ages dating together. Not to get, you know what I mean? And
I do.
It seems like it betrays the character to a certain degree. At the end of the day,
and especially he's going to be on screen with Miles, who is supposed to be his junior, right?
Okay,
there's a can of worms. Zachny, go ahead.
So one could say we all played a Spider-Man game where we played a Peter Parker who looked a certain way.
Yeah.
But in this shift to a new console generation, it's a slightly different looking Peter Parker. What a strange thing. And now we're going to focus on Miles. Interesting. Almost as if like perhaps there was some sort of universal leap. Perhaps it's not just maybe these are the breadcrumbs. Like read the signs.
That there's actually
this is like then like they're gonna announce like there's gonna be some upgrades to Spider-Man Remastered. Wait, why? What's this new Miles? He looks animated. Right. What is going on?
It's like secretly a Spider-Verse tie-in. Spider-Verse 2 coming only to PS5.
See, this is what I'm saying.
The thing that they've said is, with the added fidelity of the PS5, we needed to recast Pete because we wanted to better match Yuri Lowenthal's face scanning during the like recording process. So we need someone who better matched Yuri's like facial structure, which.
I mean, maybe.
Benedict Cumberbatch was a fucking dragon, man. They made that work.
The thing that I'm like, one, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad already. It was fine. Two, could you not have found someone who didn't look like knockoff Tom Holland? Like,
so that's the bit that I'm not cynical enough to necessarily think that this is
I'm
like
they look. Am.
Are you saying they looked at the Marvel's Avengers,
low red Tom Holland all the way? Like,
well, because that was one of the responses to the Crystal Dynamics game was like, for better and worse, like the cinematic versions of these characters come to define like our popular interpretations of like how they look, because that is sort of like seen as like the canon look for these characters that are current place and time. And so for this one, before there was the explanation, people were just like, so what? They just made like rip off Tom Holland. Like Tom Holland was trending on Twitter. It wasn't Spider-Man PS4. It was Tom Holland trending on Twitter.
Looks like Tom Holland. What do you like?
Also, that first one kind of looks like Andrew Garfield, who was the guy before, right? Like it's literally that thing.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. Which made me think, like, is there a world in which the Garfield estate got in touch and was like, you can't use knockoff Garfield?
He's okay, right?
You're saying? Sorry, I meant that the Garfield estate got in touch with them beforehand to be like, you can't use this guy who looks like Andrew Garfield without paying us. You're using our client's likeness. You're saying Andrew Garfield disappeared, and when they saw this change happen,
well, no, you're saying the estate got in touch.
Yeah,
why doesn't he have like
he's like a rich Brit? He's like a rich British guy. I assumed he had people for his things.
He sent a DM. He's like, "Hey, Brian Inahar, look."
God,
the character does feel like the action figure for a license where they don't have the face rights for the actor.
Yes.
So like you end up in the like, so this character has to suggest the actor, but it can't be the actor. So like, just imagine if the actor were made of plastic and then you lightly blowtorched him, what would he look like? And that's what we got in the new Spider-Man.
Tom Holland. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure that the situation is the situation for reasons that are legitimate. I think it's a poor creative choice. Like, I'm sure the next game will be very good, and I'll get over it. But I think it's interesting when we talk about the ongoing sort of like, what does it mean? Putting this like next to like a Demon Souls and like a Shadow of the Colossus, and just like the different ways we think of what does it mean to update a game, looking at like the Mario 3D All-Stars collection and like the issues I had with like the lack of like modernization of like, it's just like, it's like they're erasing a certain version of this, like it's just gone. Like, they're not going to patch it into the PS4 version. It'll stay there. My guess is, but it's just fascinating to like see that degree of, it's not a mechanical change. It's like a technical creative choice made what, 2 years later, is I think they would have been better served just doing it for the new one and saying this, we decided to go into a new direction with the sequel. Like, I think a lot of the like the angst is, one, because I think it's bad, but two, because it's like, hey, why are you changing the game I already liked in a way that doesn't necessarily feel it doesn't
justified.
Explain itself. It doesn't justify itself in seeing it. There's a world in which the casting is so good somehow. Like, I in my mind, if they end up making him look more like schlubby, what do you call it? Spider-Man, Enter the Spider-Verse, Peter B. Parker. I'm like, yeah, definitely. That's that character. He's kind of a miserable... I guess he's not there yet, but if you put him on the path there, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that works for me. But this is the opposite direction, and yeah. Anyway, no more internet discourse. We're done with it for the day.
Oh, okay.
None.
That's good.
I don't think there's any more coming. I think they're done with it. I think people online said, you know what? We're done with getting, yelling at people about puddles and politics. It's over. We're just going to be like pretty chill from now on. So that's good news for everybody. I saw it was an announcement. Everyone said, all right, we're done. Which, after that debate, fair.
For the rest of 2020, America will be chill and just vibing.
Yeah, we're just vibing. There's definitely not going to be anything to worry about for the next couple of weeks. Rob, speaking of vibing, how have you been vibing with Star Wars Squadrons?
Oh, I thought like Rob putting his arms behind his neck was like, time to talk Baldur's Gate.
I was getting ready. I was like, you want to talk
that
about
was not the Star Wars relax. That was the Baldur's Gate.
No, that was
relax.
the Baldur's Gate relax. You're right. The Baldur's update. How quick is your Baldur's update?
It's pretty quick. I'm not sure I like that game, and I might not stick with it.
Vibing, pure vibes.
Let me tell you a couple things about my experience with Baldur's Gate. One, I like AD&D Second Edition way less than I remember. I'm playing that and I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of upkeep to doing anything in this fucking system, and not a lot of it makes intuitive sense, and it just might gently suck. So there's that. The other thing is that game takes forever to get going. Like, I'm just wandering around these like hills and forests, like killing. I slaughtered a village full of like Zvarts. I don't know what they are. They're like little shitty goblin people. But the thing is,
but they're all dead now.
They're all dead. And I was like, did I fuck up? Should I not have been here? Like, I just wiped out a village full of people. And and everyone's like fine with it. And I'm like, we just slaughtered a village. Like, this is, and I don't understand. I'm still not sure.
Oh, Rob, they're just, sorry, you don't have to worry about it. They're common enemies found in most wilderness areas. That's what you need to know.
But they had a home.
Yeah,
well, they did.
Those little dudes.
Yeah, it's these little dudes. These little blue.
You little
Oh my
Svart.
God. I just saw what the 5e version of them look. Can we go through Zvarts through the years here?
Yeah.
Here's first.
Through
the ages. Here's first edition Zvarts. I'm gonna take
Don't
a little,
like this. That's not going in a good direction.
Goblin man, maybe. Not really. It sounds like the anti-Semitic nose, but it's not anti-Semitic. Is what I would. It's not pulling on those stereotypes. Here we go. Second edition. Zvarts got buff.
They got swole.
Damn.
They got swole as shit. All kinds of gains. Big club. There's like a little short dude with a big goblin face, kind of like a Green Goblin mask face going on, but with a Joker smile. Kind of all worlds. Third edition, 3E. Here we go. They're a little blue. They're blue now. I mean, maybe they were always blue.
Dudes.
They're little blue golem dudes with like big hand around a dagger situation. And then we wrap around. Here's the current Zvart status, 5th edition.
What? What's happening here?
I don't know. So they're little blue. How's that song go? They're blue. Yeah.
I believe I would die. That's what we said in high school or middle school.
Oh, well, because the Zvarts would kill you. This one has that one Zvart has sheathed on its belt a dart, which is the corniest art joke you could ever make. A Zvart dart. They're like necklace frog people. They're not actually frog people, but
they look bummed.
They look bummed. Anyway, you killed a bunch of these people? It says they were cowardly and easily intimidated here.
Well, I was just walking by and they were like, stay away. But then they came at me.
I can't deal with D&D sometimes. This is a sentence about people in this world, or a series of sentences. Zvarts were cowardly and easily intimidated. I like that they use "were" here because of how Rob killed them all. They were of average intelligence. Zvarts were generally hateful creatures. Fuck off. I can't with to each other. Like, were they just chilling in the village that you ran through, just yelling like slurs at each other nonstop? What was their life like outside of you killing them?
Also, they had a pet bear that like tried to stop me and like came after my party, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, I just killed their bear too."
God.
And this came up, but also I'm like hours into this game, and I've got a pile of quests, none of which are very compelling, and I'm still not exactly sure like what is the through line. Like, I'm trying to figure out like, why is the iron in this area like crumbling in people's hands? What's up with the steel? And like, the game is seriously overestimating my interest in metallurgical mysteries. Like, I'm like, look, I went in the mine, I killed a fucking mage. That probably fixed it, but if it didn't, I don't know, give it time. I went in the mine, man. Yeah. I got the wizard who was there. So let's roll.
They were gnomes. That's their deal. They were gnomes.
Well, that explains.
Zvarts were gnomes, and then they were twisted in the shadow dark by the Pthumerians over many generations, warped by fell Joker magic. Yeah, they got Joker-fied. They died. Yeah, I'm saying
Joker magic.
Right. Yeah, they got Joker-fied.
What's Joker magic?
It's like the Joker. Joker-fied.
So I just watched the 1989 Tim Burton Batman for an answer to this question. And the Joker magic is the chemical goo that they make it Axis Chemicals. That if you just fall into it, you get Joker-fied.
That's correct.
But you have to be kind of a dick beforehand. That's the key.
Otherwise, you just die when you fall in there.
Yeah, you just die. But if you're Jack Nicholson, you get Joker-fied.
So you have to have had the Joker gene, but that's kind of a passive. It can be passive in you and then become activated with you
go through Joker Genesis.
Joker Genesis, yeah. If you have a proper application of the Joker chemical, that makes sense to me. This I understand. Anyway, Rob, I'm sorry you're not having a good time with Baldur's Gate.
I'm just not sure I'm going to stick with it. I know it is a touchstone, but I'm not actually sure it is one that I need to like continue exploring. I might go on to Baldur's Gate 2, which people said is the actual classic in that series.
You're playing Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah, dude. I was playing 1.
Yeah, go to 2.
And I'm not there with it. I'm not feeling it.
Or you can go, watch and listen to Cameron Kunzelman and Danny over at Range Touch go through their playthrough.
Mages and Murder Dads.
Mages and Murder Dads.
Yeah,
that's a great.
That might be the way I get through the rest of Baldur's Gate 1, and then I'll try.
They got good voices. It's fun to just watch, people
also
play Baldur's Gate.
I hate some of the companion characters so fucking much. Again, they're all just like these shallow concept characters. They're like, what if he's a wizard, but he's really depressed? And so everything is just like, kind of a like very bummer wizard who's just saying things like, we're doomed. And I guess like, it's like it anticipates Twitter in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's just, what's Zan doing? He's posting, haha, we're fucked again. Okay, great.
I don't doom scroll when I wake up. I talk to Zan the wizard in my party. He goes, what are you up to today? I don't know. The world's on fire. Cool. You know what? Right. Cool. Yeah. Did you know that all the iron is melting in this economy? No, I didn't know that, Zan. Is that something I should care about? Read this think piece I wrote. Okay, Zan.
It's on Medium.
It's on Medium. God.
Working on a Substack every morning.
God.
Oh my God! And
your your depressed wizard rolls his newsletter under everyone's tent every morning. Hey guys, just a quick update. This was not as long as it normally is because we ran out of scroll
It's been
paper.
a long week.
It's been a long week. We killed all those smarts and it really took it out of me.
I can't believe
are we the baddies?
Greenberg posted.
Anyway.
My God. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Rob. Anyway, what I did want to know about was EA's Star Wars' Squadrons.
Yeah. So it's an odd little game. It does feel a bit like it is splitting the difference between, like, it feels like it's trying to touch a lot of different nostalgias all at once. It's like, hey, Rogue Squadron people, we see you. Hey, X-Wing series people, we see you. Oh, like people who just like, games like World of Warplanes. This is fine. Hop right in. You'll pick this up right away. No problem. And I think that does contribute to a feeling of it is a game where I'm still kind of struggling to find like what is the core identity of this thing, because it's doing a lot of things decently. But there's nothing like to it that I would say is like, there's not a unique identity that I'm like, man, Squadrons fucking nails it. The most I can say is it is evoking a lot of like favorite old experiences.
Right.
But that's not necessarily a bad thing because like, there's not a lot of games of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter going right now. Like, that moment has passed. That ship has sailed. Unless you're going to, like, throw a little LAN party with your friends, which, there's a plague on, so probably not happening. But this, like, you can go dogfight people in Star Wars spacecraft. And for a type of gamer, that is the shit. It turns out I am that type. It also turns out I still got it. I am freakishly good at Star Wars Squadrons.
Hell yeah.
Are you okay? What are you playing on? 1.
PC, but there's crossplay.
That's great.
So
you can play no matter what I do.
Nice.
Yeah.
2, did you play both single player campaign and multiplayer stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can tell us about everything. 3, and this was my big question really coming into this thing, is someone who's like, wow, this is really beautiful cockpit paced, like, old school inspired, whatever that means to you, Star Wars, space sim stuff. Is the campaign meaty? Is the campaign healthy? Or is it just like a little slight thing that you kind of dip into to learn the ropes and then you move on to it being a multiplayer, like, skirmish session game?
So the campaign, I'm only a little ways into it because I had some weird issues with like trying to the game when your ship is disabled with an ion weapon. We're all Star Wars fans here. We know what ion weapons do, but if you don't, ion weapons like disable the electronics on a Star Wars ship. So remember when the rebels need to flee Hoth, the ion cannon fires into the upper atmosphere and disables the Star Destroyer blocking force that's there by overwhelming their systems. Well, that will happen to you in various forms, both in multiplayer and in single player. And their solution to like, what do you do when someone overloads your ship is to basically make you mash buttons. And on the controller, so you just start smashing buttons, and your character's arms start like whipping around the cockpit as they push little buttons, trying to wake it up.
That's
as
cute.
If it's like it's a broken PC where it's like, I need to get Task Manager open. God damn it, I got ion weapon. God damn it.
Oh wait. This actually raises another question about slamming on the controls. Are you using a HOTAS or are you using just a
coming to that because it doesn't work like. When you need to wake your ship up, when you get hit with the ion weapon, it doesn't appear that any of the HOTAS controls will like trigger that like action.
What?
Even though you're pressing the same controls that you would be on a like gamepad.
That seems like something they'll patch, hopefully.
Yeah, seems like it, but
people are going to get big bad about that extremely quick.
Yes, that's exactly right. Exactly.
That's your next Twitter drama is why does not my HOTAS not trigger the ion cannon?
Well, and the entire, it's not just that needs to get patched. It's the entire way. This is a game that really desperately wants to have one, like whatever control scheme you're using, it wants it to use it for everything. And so like if it detects you got a HOTAS plugged in, it's like, cool, so you want to use that to navigate on the menus, right? And I'm like, no, I do not. And so, like, you will end up, and sometimes, like, there will be things double assigned because there's, the way it's handling the controls is there's menu controls and then there's flight controls, but you can access the menu while you're in flight. And so if you map something to, like, both menu and flight controls, you'll press a hat switch and like the menu will pop up, even though it is also doing something else with your spaceship. So there's just lots of weirdness around the way the multiple control settings work. And it's something that like I'm having to like fine tune and continue to troubleshoot a bit. The support is good. It's just like the defaults out of, on the install aren't. And so I'm having to sort of teach the game the way that I want things laid out, which is part and parcel of playing with a fucking joystick. Like, and really, I had to do the same thing with. But
you're finding that when it does work for you now, when it does like function, it works.
Oh yeah, like really well. So something that if you played the old X-Wing games, something you learned real quickly was that the joystick was awesome for like flying around, but wasn't so much good for like target shooting.
I did a lot of switching to my mouse type stuff.
Yeah, you'd snipe people with mouse controls, and then for like the flying around, you'd switch back to your joystick. This has a little bit of aim assist with the with the laser weapons in your ship, and canonically this is Star Wars. Weapons do lightly lock on in Star Wars, and so you will still have to make deflection shots with your joystick. Patrick, so deflection shooting is when you have a target in motion.
No, this is good. I like Star Wars, but not like this.
You aim in front of them so that by the time your shots reach there, it is full of spaceship when they arrive. So you have to aim in front of them to lead your target. Yeah,
gotcha. Understand.
Does this do the classic Space Sim thing of giving you a little marker to tell you where you're leading your target?
No.
Or do you just have to
eyeball it?
You just gotta get a feel for it.
Oh, fuck.
Well, but also because your weapons will lock a little bit. So if you're in the right zone, like those the computer will adjust and like bring those shots in.
Here's another real fucking I loved these games as a kid question. How distinct do the ships feel one to another? Does flying an A-Wing feel good and different than flying a Y-Wing?
Dude, the A-Wing fucking rules.
Hell yeah.
The moment, like, so I tried the A-Wing for the first time in multiplayer.
Yeah. Was it like an F1 car with guns on it? Like in space?
Yeah, it pretty much was like I was striking from the sky and obliterating people and just like vanishing into space again. It is incredibly fast, and I think a thing they've done that's smart is it's not just top speed, it's also like throttle responsiveness. Like the thing just has acceleration that the other ships do not.
That's cool.
And so the A-Wing isn't just faster, it's also quicker to dump speed because turning radius is speed dependent. And if you cut your throttle and lower your speed, your turn will happen faster. The A-Wing wins these turning fights pretty routinely because its throttle response is so quick. The X-Wing and the TIE Fighter are both like a little more, they are kind of the defaults. They're kind of the balanced ships that are kind of decently multi-role. And then you have like TIE bombers or Y-Wings feel like shit. And like basically you are a giant fucking target that carries a massive payload. Right. So like if you can get to the target, you're good. But if you end up like in a firefight with somebody, you're probably fucked unless you really pull out some tricks. The thing is, those ships, those like the bombers in particular, are really only very good in the fleet battles mode, as far as I can tell. Where it's a bit more objective based. There's 3 capital ships on each side, and so the Imperials are trying to shoot down the rebel Nebulon B frigates to clear the path to the Mon Calamari cruiser. The rebels are shooting down Imperial cruisers to try to clear the path to the Star Destroyer. And so basically it's kind of a tower defense thing, right? Where the light capital ships are your towers,
right? And
then the the Nexus is basically the mothership of each side. That's really where your bombers are coming into play.
Oh, wait, are there mobs? Are there like
there are AI starfighters in these battles?
That's interesting.
They're not very interesting, I think, or maybe this is one of the issues with maybe this approach is what caused issues with the single player campaign. The AI pilots feel bad in this game. They just do. If you remember the TIE Fighter games, it did feel like you had multiple different military units out there all pursuing their own like agenda and like doing shit. And different pilots, like different ships had different feels. Like the way they did it in the old X-Wing games would be, I think they had like pilot skill ratings that were sort of secretly assigned to every single ship that was out there in combat. And so like this is why there would always be one TIE Fighter that was like just nightmarishly tough to shoot down, even though its wingmen went down really easily. It's because like one of these would be at a 4 where the others were at 1, and the 4 would just be like much more reactive and unpredictable. Here, everything feels like clones. The enemy starfighters all do the same thing. They don't appear to... They all behave the exact same way. They're not challenging in an interesting way. They basically do head-on firing passes and try to get around behind you and get you that way. But if you turn onto their tail, they're kind of out of ideas.
Right.
And so like this isn't such a bad deal in the multiplayer because they are just mobs there. But in single player, it totally like destroys the illusion that you're part of you're fighting in a major engagement here. I think it's a real problem with the game where like if you think back to some of the best games in that genre, I think Free Space 2 is probably as good as it ever got. With the feel.
Colony Wars. I'm glad that you mentioned that in your write-up. I was like, because I played X-Wing TIE Fighter a little bit on the PC, then became a console person. Like Colony Wars, like by Psygnosis, was like one of my favorite games on the PS1.
Yeah, that was. The thing I can't remember about Colony Wars is how often did it have huge battles that like you're sort of looking around and like, oh, like look, these ships are duking it out and I have nothing to do with that.
I remember it like creating the illusion of that spectacle, but you were rarely a participant.
It was one of those games that had like a capital ship would show up at the end of every 5th mission, and every 10th mission you'd get a cool big cap ship battle. That didn't. The thing that I mostly remember is cool energy lance style like. On for more than a second, big beam weapons.
Oh, that is
like
very
cut through everything, and that totally, 100%.
It also had such a look. Like Psygnosis was like a defining aesthetic of like the PS1 era, and like that game was like ran at what felt like 60 frames a second. I don't know what it actually was, but like for like brain at the time. And like it just felt so good to control like the ships in Wipeout and then the ships in Colony Wars.
Both of these games are good is what I will say. In any case.
But yeah, so they would suggest like, oh, I'm fighting my dogfight over here, but then there's a cool battle happening over there between like everyone who's like, they're also doing their own thing. Here, it very much feels like the levels are waiting for you to trigger the next event and like spawn the next wave of enemies for you to deal with.
Yeah, to be fair, that hurts. I feel like TIE Fighter and X-Wing both had that issue too to some degree because they were so mission based. It's just that in my memory, at least, TIE Fighter especially made that the proceduralism of going on those missions feel like part of the draw.
Yeah.
And so it was okay for things to kind of step through a series of stages in a way that was like, this is going to trigger the fight. When I finish scanning this Imperial, transport and I find out that there's like, some sort of contraband on board and that there's a secret anti-emperor, faction inside, that's going to trigger the arrival of the next thing. And the way that they sell that made it so I never really minded that style of like predictable structure. But I could imagine today expecting more just by nature of it. Not what a wave-based combat mode is in a game, and so you can kind of see that structure a little more clearly. Regardless, it sounds like you have an overall pretty good time with this thing, or you feel like your expectations were met at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think my expectations were low, and so I think they were exceeded, right? Okay. Like, I think this is the thing. Squadrons kind of came out of nowhere. It wasn't particularly heavily promoted.
No one was like pounding the table being like, EA, make a revive. I mean, like people were saying like make another X-Wing, but no one thought that like this is like a company that wants to make crummy open world games and like cancel them 18 months into production. Like there was no shot that it was going to be like that X-Wing was going to be like an influence for something they would do. I told Rob this after I read his impressions, was like in a different era, this feels like an XBLA game that came out. And I don't mean that as like to be condescending, but I know that you said, we haven't touched on this very much here, but Rob, you weren't particularly impressed with the campaign, which is like, if I'm going to get into this thing, like the campaign would be what I'm like looking to get into, in the same way that I was trying to do that through Battlefront, which had a okay main character and like totally fine single player, but like it wasn't anything electrifying. And I got a similar impression from reading what you had written about the Squadrons campaign, which I know you're not done with, but at least the initial impressions didn't seem particularly hot.
Yeah, I'm curious to get into more of the Imperial stuff because it is kind of two stories sort of woven together. But yeah, it's more the missions themselves feel super lackluster. Everything feels like it's just you're in a bubble and everything's happening around you at different points in that bubble, but that is how it feels, to the point where early on I was like, the flying doesn't feel good because it feels like everything happens at a certain like arm's distance from me at all times.
Right.
You notice it really intensely when your wingmen form up. And it is like they're attached by wire to you, and it just like the formation flying is way too orderly in a way that you're like, okay, they're just locked on me, like this is how this game is operating. And
did you like the Rogue Squadron games? Like I'm trying to like think of the two different tracks of like popular, like not, Rogue Squadron is not a space sim series, but it's like that's more the action. But like, did you like those as well? So like I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, that was in the era where I was like, Nintendo has nothing for me.
Okay,
so
you never even really played those games.
No,
okay,
because I was always like, that entire era I was like, they want how much money for this thing, and it has what games? No.
And I only just bring it up to illustrate the point that I think for a certain era of like a lot of people on this call, TIE Fighter is that touchstone, and then space sim for a lot of other people, especially in like the Star Wars parlance, is for a lot of people and I lived through both. Like I was really young through like the TIE Fighter, like the DOS era, and playing games, Dark Forces and their ilk, but then also went through like a console like period, and where like I was deep into Shadows of the Empire and Rogue Squadron, and like really liked those games.
It was very easy not to be able to follow from a certain point in PC gaming. Like I think a lot of us maybe had a PC for a while that was good enough to play contemporary games, and then there was the 3D card boom happened, and like a lot of games got locked off.
I got up to Quake, had like one 3DFX card, like a Voodoo, and then after that, I just went to console stuff.
So yeah,
I think the Rogue Squadron thing is there a little bit through the maps. So the X-Wing games were all very much like just the void of space. Like there was nothing in it. It was just ships flying around. Like the terrain was basically where were the capital ships parked. That's what set the boundaries of the battlefield. Rogue Squadron, my impression, was very much about like you're in a place. You're doing things in a fighter relative to like this setting for this mission.
It was modern Star Fox, like the Star Fox 64 like 3D arenas where like you'd be fighting under the UFO. Like that's like the kind of thing that Rogue Squadron operated.
So this is channeling
rules,
that,
by the way.
So good. Star Fox 64.
I replayed that Star Fox
game.
level for that specific level probably 1,000 times.
That Independence Day level, right?
Yes, because it came out in the same. In my head, it's the same summer. I don't know if that's true.
No.
Don't correct us.
The Star Fox, because I don't want to be told. That is my canon. That is my heart. Walk away. Get out of my mentions.
God.
Because I also loved, I just want a quick shout out to Star Fox 64 multiplayer. Highly underrated. Loved playing Star Fox 64 multiplayer, especially when you would play R-Wing versus like rocket launchers. I don't know if that was a mode or something our friends did, but it was just like
no, you had to unlock the like rocket launcher ability, but then you could pick whatever of the things you had unlocked. So
I think that's what we would do. Just it would be fun to have like one person as an R-Wing and then like on 3 people on the ground just shooting rocket launchers. Like, anyway,
Rob,
sorry,
you're right.
Keep going.
You're 100% right. That like even though the terrain didn't always mean something in the Rogue Squadron games in terms of like. I mean, like, yes, there are mountains and there are like hills and Imperial bases and stuff. What they did mean, what they actually meant was the environments evoke a certain tonal quality, or like, oh wow, I'm in an area that's like really pretty, and I'm trying to protect this, this colony from Imperial attack, or whatever, and their sun is out, and the clouds are beautiful, and blah blah blah. Like that was sort of the sort of space that it worked in terms of terrain comparatively to X-Wing.
So this game is definitely channeling that, but the terrain does matter a lot. Like the first mission, you were basically flying inside a asteroid base. And like getting in dogfights basically in this massive cavernous hangar where like there's space to maneuver, but if you're not careful, you could also just like eat shit. Right. And it really works well in the multiplayer. Like there's a battlefield where the entire thing is in sort of channeling Free Space 2. You're kind of in a stormy nebula, and the main battlefield is clear of that. And there's like a shipwrecked, like Clone Wars era Star Destroyer, like sitting there. But the edges of the battlefield's all murky. You can fly out, and you'll start taking damage from the storm, but you're still in bounds. Like it's not saying like turn around, go back. You're exceeding the limits. Yeah. You can dip in and out of the storm to like break contact with people. I don't think sensors see when people go into the storm, so it's like a way to like gain stealth. Or at the very least, nobody can see you. It's tough to see. And so it turns into this interesting game where people will like duck in and out of the storm and eat the damage, but it allows you to basically come in from a different direction from where people chased you. There's another battlefield that is in a really dense asteroid field that at first you're like, I've got plenty of room to maneuver. This isn't tough at all. But again, once you are like tunnel visioned on like fighting these people or like trying to break missile locks, suddenly you realize like, oh, there's all these interesting like nooks and crannies and gaps in the asteroids that I can start using to like lose people, or I can sort of bully people into crashing into an asteroid, or I can put this asteroid between me and somebody who's trying to get a missile lock on me. And all that, like a lot of maps have different characters like this, and it works pretty well.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's weird. Like, I think for me, it's mostly, I'm always going to be somebody who's like, I want the next TIE fighter. I want the next Free Space 2. This game, I think, also kind of wants to do that, but I just don't think it quite gets there with the flight model it has, with the way it sort of has AI pilots living in it. But the multiplayer is pretty cool. Like once you were out of the confines of the single player and you got human pilots flying around, suddenly everything feels much more dynamic, much more interesting. And also just rewards certain mastery of air combat tactics, which apparently I possess in space.
I'm ready for it. Go ahead.
I had a quick question because you kept mentioning that there's these like smaller capital ships in on the map that act almost as like MOBA towers, right?
Yeah.
Are they? Is that kind of literal in that all they do is sit there and shoot, or is there more going on with those? Because I remember like my touchstone for Star Wars like space battles is Battlefront 2, and like being able to hit different areas of and different sections of the ships that would take down different systems was always really cool to me.
Yeah.
Is this kind of like that, or is it just like that's just like a tower, like it's gonna sit there and shoot whatever gets into its radius and you just have to take it down?
It's a little bit of both. The ships aren't very dynamic. So even though the fleets are ostensibly flying at each other, really they're there to sort of cordon off the battlefield into thirds. The way it works is each side gains momentum or morale points, basically, by like winning the aerial dogfight. And then one side goes on the attack. And the defensive side, its leading capital ships are now vulnerable. I don't think they're vulnerable outside of these moments. Like it's like their shields are down.
Right.
And you go in and you begin making attack runs on the capital ships. You can target components. Like they will have laser turrets. They will have like sensor racks and such. You can sort of work in on one side of the ship so that like you have easier attack runs moving forward because, hey, there's not a laser battery that was there.
Right.
So now they've lost a little bit of coverage, which really does start to matter when you're going up against like a Star Destroyer. But they aren't engaging in like at the same time they are just soaking a certain amount of damage and they're there to just get blasted by the bombers. And so I think again it's like it has a little bit of that old X-Wing game or the vibe of like take their shield generators down,
right?
But it's not. It's also at the same time there's limits to that. Mostly they are there to soak up damage, and you really have to be on your game to knock those ships down on one offensive possession, basically, because while you're on the attack, now the defender is starting. It feels like they're getting bonuses for the kills they're inflicting, so momentum begins to swing away from the attacker.
And I imagine,
and then it flips.
I imagine being an attacker, your focus being to deal damage, you might be getting taken out more often, right? And that's what gives them more morale in the end. Like damage doesn't give morale, probably.
I couldn't quite. It definitely feels like it's weighted so that the attacker loses momentum, and not just because of like the shift in tactics. I don't think it's just defender's advantage. I think there's some weighting happening. But yeah, either way, there is a part where offense is tougher because if you're in one of those bombers making these runs, you're super vulnerable. Right. You're very easy to pick off, but you kind of need people doing those heavy hits on those capital ships.
All right. Well, we should take a break, and then when we come back, I need to yell about Genshin Impact because it's going to be.
I just want to point out it's like fascinating that EA is going to do something mildly interesting with the Star Wars franchise right before probably Disney takes it away from them.
Yeah, 100%. This is probably the last exclusive thing they make with Star Wars, right? Like
that would be that's again. Do not
their Siren Song.
Do not put.
Patrick Klepek reports.
I think it's unlikely that. Yeah, I think they will. I think they will keep making Star Wars games. I think this is like
they will continue to be a partner.
Yes, they will be a partner, but there will be another Star Wars Battlefront. And they will, the EA motive is making that whatever twisted game out of the wreckage of the Amy Hennig game.
Right.
But
did they announce that? I feel like they finally did something.
I feel like they've like announced it in the way companies announce games through like career openings of like like announcing what they're making without announcing.
I bet there's another Fallen Order, another Star Wars Jedi game.
They already said they're making a Fallen Order.
So,
they basically
continue doing those.
But yeah, I think if you're fearful that EA will be the only company doing that, I think that'll change in the coming years, which is good. They have not shown that they should necessarily be the singular steward.
Well, partly it is like a lack of interest in doing any of these. Like, hey, people used to like these types of Star Wars games. Right. Better not make those.
Yeah.
If you just made a niche targeted TIE fighter game that was like lower scale, I mean, like there's just a lot of things they could have done with it, and who knows how much of that is Disney asking for X and Y, but it's stuff like this where if Bethesda was going to get sold, maybe there are worse places than Microsoft to have gone, because it sounds like they almost got sold to EA, like very close to almost got sold to EA, and boy, look what they did to BioWare. So
brutal. All right, anyway. Now we will be back in a moment. We're gonna take a break. Sorry, I'm now looking at a list of Star Wars games that came out, and I need to just close this window because otherwise I'm going to keep talking. All right, we will be right back. All right, we're back. Genshin Impact has taken over my life. What is this? Anime. He's whispering anime. Anime.
What can you do the voice? So I haven't played this game. I meant to download it. I did.
Wait, what
and
voice?
Then instead I drank with Rob and talked about the Bears instead of playing this game. But can you do the voice? There's a character nobody likes. Can you do the voice?
Okay, listen. Paimon? This is a Paimon defense.
Ooh, this is a pro Paimon.
I am sick of gamer dudes not liking Paimon.
What?
It is like that character is a stock character. All right, this game is filled with stock characters.
Kato, can you do the voice?
Kato can do this voice.
You can do voices.
I could probably
but her voice is just
it's just like high pitched.
She's just like high pitched. She's just like
I'm Paimon.
Hi, I'm Paimon. Yeah, but the thing is,
Paimon refers to Paimon in the third person all the time.
Right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's close. And the thing is, that is a stock character that I historically don't have a ton of fondness for. The kind of player character, the fairy, the Navi, but who speaks to characters on your behalf because you're a character who doesn't have a voice, and so even though you're selecting dialogue options, you're rarely actually speaking, and so the other character speaks for you. But I think that the deployment of this stock character and many of this game's kind of adventure anime tropes is actually fairly clever and good. The banter you have with Paimon is actually very fun. You're constantly threatening to eat her as a snack. And
how big is Paimon? I guess I should look this up.
Like
2 feet?
Just under toddler, right?
1.5?
Around toddler size. She flies around, and on more than one occasion, I've referred to her as emergency food.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good. Anyway, no.
Also, I just searched Paimon, which if you've seen Hereditary, the Google image search just brought back.
She is evil because Paimon is one of the demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon and many other demonic manuscripts. I am 90. Also, she just shows up.
Are they?
All right, so the pitch of this game is
doing a fucking Bravely Default.
They have to be.
They have to be, right?
I believe in my heart that she's evil and that she's manipulative and that she's going to be at some point I was like, when do I get to kill Paimon? And my response was 5 expansions from now when it's revealed that she's the final boss.
Yeah.
All right, let me slow down. Genshin Impact.
Have we said what game we're talking about? This is all a blur. I'm like, that's why did we actually introduce what we're talking about?
All right, let me slow down. Genshin Impact is the new game from developer and publisher Miyoho, which is I want to say Shanghai-based studio that got into mobile games 9 years ago. I looked at their first game last night, and it's one of those things where you remember that thing the conversation I had about Fall Guys a couple of episodes ago, where I was like, damn, look at their arc. Look at where they came from doing basically
ports, games.
And licensed games. Exactly. Let me just show you really quick what the first game from this studio looked like from
But this is also generally the arc of
ago.
Chinese game development in general.
Totally, 100%.
Has been a mobile space and then slowly starting to build out an infrastructure to build like more traditional console.
Exactly. Games. And so this studio, Miyoho, had been making games for the last 9 years, started with very simple mobile game, very simple like arcadey mobile games.
Oh wow!
Eventually,
okay.
Yeah. See, this is it's like 2D animation of like a girl with a jetpack trying to like. It's like Solar
Collect
Jetman
coins
or
and,
something.
yes.
You know what I mean? Or like Moonlander style game. It looks fine. Like it looks like a totally
It's about
fine
survival and puzzle.
20
what else do
survival
you
and
need?
puzzle. What else do you need in life? Yeah.
The survival puzzle genre.
Exactly. Then in 2016, they put out a game called Honkai Impact Third, and that game was like an actiony. I think it was a gacha also. Kind of third person action character action mobile game that also eventually hit PC, and they did pretty well with that. And now, and for the last few years, they've been developing and doing beta tests for this game called Genshin Impact. Which I think is in the same metaverse as Honkai Impact, but that there's no direct sequel or anything. You can just jump right into Genshin Impact, which is a free-to-play, open-world action RPG. I think got a lot of derision when the first trailers hit because people were like, they're making free Breath of the Wild. That's what this is.
There are straight up photos from like a trade show where someone took their PS4 or people were holding up Switches in front of the event space for this game, and then someone as a stunt at a mall at a different time like took their PlayStation 4 and like broke it and were accosted by the police.
What?
Sure.
Now, since then, the developers have I believe if you I think I saw this aggregated over at Game Informer, in which they had some quotes from the developer, an interview they did elsewhere. I've since emailed the folks that make this game, like, respond to my email. I want to talk to you about this game.
I want to talk to you. Yeah.
They sort of responded not to the charge, more or less could be a charge though, of like the Breath of the Wild, and they like kind of owned it, like we think Breath of the Wild is great.
Shit. It's a fantastic game.
In the same way that I give no shits about Ubisoft shamelessly ripping off Breath of the Wild. You know what? More games should shamelessly rip off Breath of the Wild.
Good luck after
Nintendo
this
left,
one, man.
Nintendo left a lot on the table. There was a lot of room to take Breath of the Wild in different directions, aesthetically, mechanically. Like, just take that template and run with it. And it sounds like this game has done that in an interesting way, despite being a free to play gacha game.
Dude, yeah. So I have a lot of thoughts about this game because they range from like, I think the free-to-play monetization is pretty fucking bad to I know who the Seth Curry on my team is, which is a weird thing to say about a free-to-play gacha game, but it's 100% true. It's Venti, by the way. This is an open-world action game in the model of Breath of the Wild, but I say action, which I wouldn't say about Breath of the Wild because there's a heightened focus on party composition, character ability combos, kind of elemental interactions, sort of like an action version of the Divinity Original Sin model, where you're really thinking about the ways in which, okay, I can set this crew on fire, right? I have a character who can put out a little pet that spits fire out. I think it's a pet bear that spits fire out. That sets people on fire. Then I'm going to tag in my bow kid, and he can shoot he's like a super move that shoots like a wind vortex that pulls everyone together. So now they're on fire.
Does tag mean that like you're swapping characters?
You have a team of
like
4
in real
characters,
time, like
and
you're
at
just
real
hitting
time,
a D-pad, and it's
you
like
hit
boom,
that's
boom, boom.
100% it. That's in the middle of a combo even.
That's
you
great.
You can start a combo and tag in someone else to finish it if you want to, which is important because their end of chain attacks all have different effects, right? So I have a character who on her 5th attack, she gives someone 2 seconds after that attack, they implode and take fire damage, which is useful if you need to put fire damage on, for instance, an ice character to melt their ice shield or whatever. So I'm going to set it up. You put down the bear shoots out fire. Then I tag in the wind kid. Wind kid shoots a vortex arrow thing that sucks everybody in. Because the fire is there, it goes from being a wind vortex to being a fire vortex, which is useful because I'm trying to get a bunch of fire damage on people because they're water and ice characters who take more damage from fire. Then I tag in my electricity character who, and this is like my favorite fucking thing. I have an electricity character who has her like main ability. Every character has a main ability and a super ability, basically. Her main thing is that she can block with her big fucking claymore. Like Breath of the Wild, this game has claymores. and you can block with that. And as she blocks with it, she charges up a counterattack. So sometimes I will set the ground on fire and have her stand in it in her block, so she charges that full animation up. And then when the enemies who are on fire land on the ground, I hit them with an electric swing, which does bonus overcharge damage because that's the way electricity interacts with people who are on fire. So it's like these combo strings are happening, and your characters, you end up having a team where you're thinking about team roles in a single player game in a way that's sort of like you would think about them in an RPG. Here's my healer, here's my DPS, here's my tank.
That's a little bit like Devil May Cry, like right. the Devil May Cry games, the most recent ones. You know, the last couple were like you're switching styles and like you're like this is the heavy, this is the light, this is a defense-oriented one. This is a speed-oriented one. Right. It sounds like it's a similar sort of thing where you're trying to think about the combination of those factors, and this is like as an elemental.
And again, there's such a sports metaphor for me here because I think about certain characters on my team as role players and certain characters on my team as like playmakers or people who are enabling a certain style of play. Like whenever I have a wind character and I'm like, okay, wind is really good at moving elements around. It's really good at like controlling the battlefield. Stuff like that. When I have characters in who do fire damage, like, all right, good. This is the person who can like slowly wear them down. This is the person who can put those dots on. And thinking about that in that way, it does end up feeling a lot like passing a ball around or being like, all right, who's in right now? Who's going to be the big gameplay maker? Who's going to create the opening that then my heavy hitter can come in and deliver on?
Don't play like the Heat did last night.
Do not do that. Do not do that. I'm leading about this because I wanted to talk about the stuff that's not like Breath of the Wild. I think the stuff that I'm talking about now is so distinct from Breath of the Wild because it's just not what that game was trying to do. That game was not interested in doing a heavy combat style thing. Like, I think there's some interesting fights and moments in Breath of the Wild, but it's mostly just an adventure game where you're climbing on things and solving puzzles. And I'm leading with this also because this was the part of Genshin Impact that I was pretty confident about from the jump. I remember seeing trailers for it, being like, this elemental stuff seems pretty cool. And it turns out, it's cool. That stuff all works. What I'm shocked to figure out or to see is that the Breath of the Wild stuff does too. I spent the first night of playing this game feeling like, okay, there's some interesting ideas here. This is like better than I thought it would be for a free-to-play game. But it doesn't do the thing that Breath of the Wild does so well, which is uses the sort of visual guide model of open world RPG, where instead of just jumping from tower to tower and looking at your list of things, you're being kind of organically driven around the map because you see a chest out of the corner of your eye. You see a little glowy thing. You see you see two torches that are lit and one torch that isn't lit. Is that a little puzzle for you to solve? Yeah. I'm like, okay, well, it's not doing that stuff that well. And then I lost like 8 hours the next day to the game because it's 100% doing all that stuff. If not as well as Breath of the Wild, then like really fucking close. There are some
in the ballpark where it's scratching a similar
it's
itch.
Scratching the exact same itch, that exact same like okay, I see I see something weird with the world, I wonder if blank, and the answer is almost always yes. It is filled, it is dense with little puzzles to find, little collectibles to pick up. It does a thing that's like very similar to, how did you get your stamina and health upgrades in Breath of the Wild? That was from shrines, right?
Yeah.
Here, yes. There are like Crackdown style orbs across the world, and you get those and turn them into a tower.
Rob just started like nodding.
Totally. And so like,
what if Korok seeds because we're worth shit?
Right. We're worth shit. Yeah. The Korok seeds in this are all worth shit because, and I want to get at something here too, which is like, I think there are lots of people who at the end of the day would like this more than Breath of the Wild if they could get over the anime, if they're not anime people, which there are less of now than there were 10 years ago. Way more people today are just like, anime, the sort of adventure anime tropes that this game uses are super normalized to them. And they don't even necessarily have to like anime. They might just have to like web series. Like if you like Ruby, the Rooster Teeth web series, this game has big Ruby energy. If you like Avatar, you will like a lot of what this game does. This game has a bunch of elemental kingdoms that have different political systems based on the gods, that the elemental gods that they originally worshipped, that have then like come down into the world. There's like a big world building reveal at the end of the first act of this game, where I'm just like, yeah, man, fuck me up. Tell me more about the Tsarista of fake Russia and what her deal is versus this like kind of like libertarian city versus this anarchy city. Like let's go. I'm going into like their fantasy China now that seems to be all about legalism and contracts. Let's fucking go. I'm ready for it. And that stuff is there's an audience for that stuff, and I think that this game will reach that audience and the audience that's liked Breath of the Wild but was like, I wish there were more skill trees, really well. People who wanted the Breath of the Wild game to be more like open world RPGs, this is filling in that gap.
That's me.
There's
that's a lot of people. I go ahead, Kato.
I was just gonna say there's definitely a subsection of people who are like, wow, the way that these systems, the nature systems interact is really cool, and I wish I could harness that even more directly for combat. That is this game.
That is this game. Exactly, and I hate it when the rain makes me not be able to climb. Right? I think I loved about
Why
Breath
do
of the
I keep
Wild.
getting zapped by this goddamn lightning?
Right. Well, for me, it's like I love that part of Breath of the Wild.
Right.
I know.
I'm just.
But the weapons breaking, or like
the
those,
weapons breaking, the fact that it's like it doesn't ever tell you how the leveling system is working, but it is working. There's kind of a background system that changes when the enemies get harder. Stuff like that is all really interesting to me because it produces an effect in that game of kind of isolation and loneliness. Breath of the Wild is a very lonely game because it's about remembering the past, or trying to remember the past, trying to put yourself in relation to distance, the distance of people who you don't know anymore, the distance between you and in a place. This game has none of that. This game is about like excess. It's about density. It's about having people yell at you all the time. In that way, it's like Dragon's Dogma with all the pawns yelling at you, because characters in this game constantly have their catchphrases that they're saying and are constantly doing their sort of like anime ass, yelling as they
that drove
fire
me
off
up a
the
wall,
attack.
and then I just found the phrases I loved and just embraced
100%.
them.
That's the way it works. I have this kid.
That's
Venti,
the one.
Who every time he says like, wouldn't it be easier or wouldn't it be faster if we glided? I'd be like, you know what? It wouldn't be, actually. You're way faster at running, but just fuck me up. Say it again. Maybe it would be faster this time if we glided. So I think it's doing all that stuff extremely, extremely well. I finished I didn't even want to talk about it until I finished the first act of the game, because there's a thing that happens in free-to-play games a lot, and I've played a bunch of free-to-play mobile games over the years, and free-to-play MMOs and stuff, which this isn't. This is a single-player game that has co-op that I haven't even touched yet. It takes you like 12 hours or something to unlock the co-op. So think about this as a single-player game. It's very weird to play a single-player game with free-to-play monetization that like is not particularly interested in me joining a guild or whatever, or like doing dailies with my pals, which is like what so many mobile games are doing in that space. This game is like, no, fuck it. We're just going to ship a big, action RPG. And also there's a battle pass, which don't buy the battle pass. The battle pass is bad. I very much, so if I have to like pivot here a little bit, I think that it's worth saying that all of the stuff that is doing really well also has to be understood within the relation to how it's going to make money. It is a gacha game. For people who don't know, gacha games are named after gacha machines, which is the Japanese name for what we think of as those little coin toy, like a coin op or a coin slot, like random toy machine that you find at like your grocery store. You put in a quarter, you twist the knob, a little bubble, a thing pops out, a little plastic, container, a capsule toy. Thank you. Yeah. And the model for that in various games can differ on a lot of different axes, right? You have how often is it that you're getting a thing that you want? How much money does it cost to do a kind of a turn of the handle, which are called pulls or draws depending on your nomenclature. How much does the game require you to do that to get characters who would be good, right? The good news I would say is from my playing it, half of my team are characters you unlock for free in the game. I guess 2 of them are like temporary unlocks for the first month of play. I think it's like when you hit level adventurer level 20, you get this one really good healer character for free, and then there's another character you can unlock around that same time who's a really good fire character. And you do get a lot of other characters. You kind of get all of the elements for free. My favorite characters are all characters who I've gotten from the pools, from the gacha. And you can earn pulls in the game naturally. You get a lot of currency as you play through. They've been giving away a lot because it's the early days and they want everyone to be happy. But it's easy. You cannot forget that at the end of the day, the monetization on a game like this is counting on people to go further than they want to go on their money in a game like this, is to be like as appealing as possible. So everyone just like, let me just do one more draw. Let me put another $10 in this and see if I get another good character or something. And in obscuring,
because it's from China, it does have to. It has to
all
show
the
you
rates are right there, and the rates are not good.
The rates tell you like you ain't getting jack shit,
right? But then you get,
but they are there.
Then you get a pool where you get 3 characters, and 2 of them are 5-star characters, and you're like, "Yo, my luck is real good right now," right? and that's the sort of right. It's not how the odds work, and the odds in this game are not good among gacha games. I think part of that is there's only 20 some characters right now, 23 characters, which is not many for a gacha game, is kind of a lot for an action RPG where the characters feel as distinct as they do here. There are 5 weapon classes. There's like bows, claymores, swords, spells, and spears. And each of those
there's that many at launch. Like there's that many at launch. Maybe the kind of.
And like every character has a different combo finisher, a different super attack, or different like special attack and a different super attack, and then a bunch of different passives based on their skill trees that make them feel genuinely different. Like my Beidou, who is my like main like sword claymore lady who does like the defensive electric charge shit, feels so different than Diluc, who is like this fire claymore boy who is also Batman. I think his whole thing is he's kind of like Batman. He's rich. He owns a vineyard, and I did a series of quests with him that are just called like The Secret of the Dark Knight. So, and they feel really distinct. So I get why there is value in those different characters. And I do think that at the end of the day, you can, because of the way the team structure works, you could build a team around the characters you have. You can beat this. You can get through this game with the free stuff. You can never touch the monetization and still get through it. But I don't think you can talk about it without talking about the ways in which these gameplay mechanisms, these monetization mechanisms, are built to be slot machines, are built to work on people's kind of gambling addiction in many cases. I have not seen any sort of protections about like, hey, you can only make 5 draws a week, which some of these games do. Some of these games will say like, listen, we're capping how many times you can do this, because to not cap it is to be abusive. And they're not doing anything like that. And I really think that there are monetization things in this game that just are bad. Like I think that they have a battle pass that unlocks, I think, when you hit level 15 or something, and it's not good. Like it's too expensive. It doesn't give you enough of like the in-game currency. There's no cosmetics yet in this game, and which I can't tell if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because if they were in there, I know I would be spending money on the cosmetics. And so, but just, so if you want to play this game, play it. Don't play don't buy the battle pass yet. It's not worth it. Which is a shame, because I much prefer battle passes to gacha stuff in terms of feeling like here's my $20 for the month or whatever. Here's
now give me the things I will earn by putting time into the
game. Exactly.
Have you been meaningfully capped in progression?
No.
As a result,
So
like if you want,
where
do you have to engage with this, and like where does that run into?
I don't think
I just
you
want
need
to engage with the.
Okay. I think Patrick, you could load this game up, do the free pulls that they give you, get the free characters that they give you, and have a really good time. And like it's on you to not dip into that credit card. Here, it doesn't save
very easy for me.
It doesn't
Never
save your credit
happen.
card information, right? So like that's also useful. It's just like, you know what?
Oh, it doesn't pull the PlayStation Network card.
No,
good
you know what?
for
Sorry. You know what? I'm playing on PC, so I have no idea if it does it on.
I bet it saves your credit card information from PSN.
Yeah. On PC, it doesn't, which means it's like I'd have to go across the room and get my wallet. No, I'm good. I like the characters I have. I'm okay. But I don't want to undermine, like, the thing that I just need to like super emphasize is that it feels like the whole package to me. I beat the end of that first area and realized that, like, okay, they're doing world building really well. They're playing in a space that is they're not doing prestige, right? I was thinking a lot last night about how much I had a similar sort of feverish playthrough of Ghost of Tsushima, but felt really low on it throughout. Which is to say, the systems of the numbers going up worked in that game the same way that they work here.
Right.
But like, this game puts to shame the shit with like following foxes in that game. The version of following stuff in this game is so much cooler because it ends up being more like Korok seeds, and every time you do anything in this game, the numbers go up. Every time you get a chest that opens, your adventurer level goes up a little bit, or you get XP for it. Everything contributes to this feeling of constant progression in a similar way to like the kind of cynical contemporary open world game design. But because it's not dressed up like, it's not pretending to be prestige samurai film, I'm not making those comparisons in my mind. I don't have to think about fucking Ron or Seven Samurai when I'm playing this game. I get to think about like Inuyasha and Avatar, and it holds up in that space. Not to diss those,
or the game is just more honest about it. It's like, you want to watch these fucking numbers go up?
You want
to crowd? Do you want to see these numbers go up?
Yeah,
me turning the knob up.
13.
Whoa,
13.
Gotcha.
14.
Gotcha.
14. Exactly, and it feels
like there's a bit of a game show element. It sounds
totally.
like to all of it, where it's just like whatever.
Listen, fuck me up. Like there's a cool dragon now. Absolutely, let's fight that dragon.
I saw the big dragon in the trailer you linked. I was like, that's a big cool.
It's a big cool dragon. There's a cool fight against that dragon with music that is like it rivals. I don't think it's as good as, but I think it's like that boss fight music was as good as shit that was in Nier Automata at places, as good as some of the Final Fantasy 14 music. Like. I was like kind of marking out for it. I got to a new area that's like the Chinese inspired area, like the Chinese fantasy area, and all of the music changed. All of it. The battle music changed. The like dramatic cinematic music changed. The you found a cool thing music changed to fit the theme of that area. And that's just like not, I didn't anticipate that degree of that amount of stuff almost. Really, anyway, at the end of the day,
you really like this game.
I fucking really like this game. And
it sounds like you almost want to say you love this game.
I'm not there yet because
you're on the path though. It sure feels like you're climbing that mountain.
I'm on the path. Listen, you can see that mountain. You can go to that mountain. This game does block off stuff at the top of the game. There are areas where you go to it and your character turns around and is like, let's go there later. Because you're not ready for that shit yet.
You know what? Sure.
I'm like, all right, because it's not like there isn't other stuff for me to go do.
But could you go there?
Yeah. It's like real place. It's just you're
it's just telling you like you don't waste your time.
There are other high level places you can get into in your opening zone. It's just like trying to keep you in your opening zone for the beginning, I think. So yeah, I just there's a consistency and a quality of the content in this game that I did not expect. It isn't pretending to be something it isn't, which makes it endearing to me. And inside of the space of what it is, again, it is very tropey. It is very like I think a lot about the way it uses certain stock character types, the dark and brooding figure, the kind of noble knight, the pop idol, who happens to be a priestess, like that vibe of that set of classic characters we all know and love, is here, but is being delivered on pretty consistently. Every time I unlock a story that's about a character, I've had a good time. There's like the main story stuff, and then there's like, okay, this is going to be the side quest that is about this character who's a chef. And we're going to go on an adventure together, and she's going to get yelled at by some people because she's over hunting a place, and the hunters here know better than to do that shit. And then she's going to get into a cooking competition. Then there's going to be a little side quest about us going out to get good ingredients for her cooking competition. And like all of that stuff is really charming in a way that I didn't anticipate. And again, that stuff is to taste. What I think is fairly clear, despite whether or not you like this style of storytelling or not, and the style of like this mode of storytelling, is that the attention to detail is there. The craftsmanship is kind of there. The effort to make all of that stuff just kind of like be really well formed is actually there in a way that I've never seen from a free-to-play game. I was talking to someone who does free-to-play kind of adjacent stuff about this, and it works in kind of that same similar kind of like, we want to get people to try an MMO space. And he told me that it was, I'm trying to remember the exact quote. I think it was impressive, important, and terrifying. That this felt like a shot across the bow for this style of game.
Which is like, oops, we've raised the bar of people's expectations.
Exactly.
Because we were all collectively sort of like, what if we all just made this type of game? And like, nobody went too far outside the bounds. And it was mostly just, can you make a good one of these?
Well, and like, I get it because it's expensive. I cannot imagine how expensive it is. I'm waiting for the shoe to drop. excuse me, for the shoe to drop on the labor stuff. Like, I bet we never get labor reporting on this thing.
No, not a chance.
But it's hard to imagine. I mean, the thing is, I want to be able to imagine a world in which the labor was good on this, and they took their time and they paid everyone adequately.
I mean, it came out of nowhere as far as we know. So it's it's not like a cyberpunk situation where it's like, oh God, there's this very public deadline, and now they're sending an internal email that's like, you know how we sought out a journalist to tell them we weren't going to do crunch, and now we are going to do mandatory 6-day week crunch, and we're going to pay you more to do it, which means it's better than how it's maybe is used in other studios, but don't make a fucking show of saying you're not going to do crunch and then do crunch, which has been happening with Cyberpunk.
Jason Schreier's.
Yeah,
fuck off. Yeah.
It sucks a lot. But I mean, it could also be the case that we have no insight.
We don't
into
know
what
what's
deadlines, what expectations are. Who knows?
At Genshin, I cannot speak to what the studio culture is there or whatever. But it's one of those things where the question gets raised only because the scope of the thing.
Sure.
I don't think that right now it's as big as Breath of the Wild's world map. It's very big and it's very dense. Again, quote, for a free-to-play game. Though also, like, part of me, I hit the end of that first act and I was like, that was like 15 really good hours. If I'm done with this game, great. That's you know what? Make more games this size. Make more open world games that are 15 hours long where I check in on them every once in a while. Maybe there's some new stuff there. So yeah, I'm really, really, really liking it. Kato, I just kind of rambled a mile a minute there. So but I do want to make sure to open up the floor to you because I know that you've also been playing it and there's certainly stuff. This game is dense enough that there's definitely stuff I did not hit for sure.
No, I don't. I mean, you hit a lot. I'm still pretty early on because I also restarted on PC. Word of warning, I guess, if you're going to try to play this game on PC, it takes forever. Did your download take the entire day?
I preloaded it, so I have no idea. I
Does it also
preload one night.
Don't people have some issue with some sort of software?
There was a kernel level anti-cheat, like the way Valorant had earlier this year. Also, they have since claimed to have pulled it. I think in quote to GameIndustry.biz is where I saw it. They removed it. Yeah, as of 2 days ago, Genshin Impact removes controversial anti-cheat system. That's from Marie Delisandre over at
Riot
Game
Games
Industry.
does not. Riot says get fucked.
No, do you want to fucking play this game? Too fucking bad. The game's anti-cheat program will immediately end once the game client is closed or uninstalled, the announcement said. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience caused by this issue. We do our utmost to prevent such issues, blah, 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 blah. It sounds like they overreached and got hit on the nose for it because they are not Riot. This game is successful, but I think that's successful. But yeah, listen, if that's stuff that you care about, and given the fact that they've already shipped it with that, play it on PS4. I feel like that's a place where you can feel a little safer about it.
I did that mostly to kind of check because I have the Office PS4 Pro here, and I was getting weird. I was getting slowdown at parts from elemental effects going off. I was like, I wonder what's going on there, and like I've been playing on PC and it's running fine there. So
have you played on mobile at all?
No,
that's the other thing.
I tried to download it and then I realized it was actually on other consoles. I would rather do it, so I just stopped because my phone is already full enough of shit.
Fucking fair. Yeah. I'm just curious what it looks like and plays like on mobile.
Yeah, totally.
I'm also hopeful that the Switch version ends up having cross save support with the PC. Apparently, they do all have cross play, but not cross save with PS4.
Have they said when the Switch version is coming?
I don't think there's a date, but
probably sometime next year.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is like when they announced that, I think I was like, oh, I'll wait for the Switch, and then I was like, no, I fucking won't. This game's out tomorrow. Let me just download it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do expect this to be like a pretty. There are things about this that if they land it, it will be huge. And then there are ways where if they really land it, it'll be huge in the way that it almost disappears, like Roblox or like what's the game that's coming to Steam for the first time this week? There's like a classic MMO that's about to come to Steam. I don't remember, but like there's that style of like
RuneScape, is it?
Yeah, RuneScape. That's exactly.
Is it really? Shit!
I think RuneScape is coming to Steam.
That's still happening.
Oh yeah,
RuneScape's on Steam now. There's a lot happening in RuneScape.
This is what I mean. It's like this feels. It won't be because it's not an MMO in that same way, but that same style of Like, this is a game that a ton of people are going to love.
It goes off and exists in its own thing. Like, it ceases to be part of the quote discourse. It's just because it has its own discourse on its own, doing its own thing.
10 years from now, there's going to be an entire generation of people who today are 14 playing this game on their phones and being blown away by it and having certain expectations set by it. And in 10 years, they might not have even played Breath of the Wild. Right? This game is free.
The Switch port is in development. They're going to do a beta in the future, but it sounds like don't wait for it. Don't hold your breath. If you're going to play this game, you should probably jump in now somewhere else.
That makes sense given the slowdown issues that Kato said.
Yeah. It's also wild how much the aesthetics and animations are like literally just Breath of the Wild. Like they really, really obviously liked that game a lot.
Oh yeah, 100%. And there's musical touches that are very much.
They absolutely tried to recreate the little sparse piano stuff of like traveling through, and then it like ramps up during battle, like that whole like. There's a lot. So many touchstones that are like almost like to the point of it being uncomfortable, but then it's still so fun to play that I'm like looking past, like I'm not even like that worried about it ultimately.
At hour 20 or whatever, I feel like it finds its own niche. It finds its own voice, partially because its voice is many voices yelling about anime bullshit.
Right.
And Breath of the Wild has no interest in that. Like Breath of the Wild has very little voice acting in it. It has like that handful of cutscenes that you unlock, the kind of flashback stuff, and that's it. No one talks at you in Breath of the Wild ever. Also I just remember the boss fight I had yesterday, and I'm just like really like, I came over a hill and I saw a lake, and in the lake there was like a series of kind of metal platforms or stone platforms. And this was in the kind of like fantasy China area called, Liwei. And I kind of glided down there because this game has a glider also. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then a giant water spirit lady, like almost like a mermaid, but without a humanoid top, kind of just like not like it's a fish. The thing I'm describing is a fish, but like a fish humanoid shape, but without a head, a human head, I guess is what I mean. Comes out and is like, yelling at me because this is the only fucking place we have left. What the fuck are you doing? I'm not going to fight you directly, and summons a bunch of like illusory water animals. So like boars made out of water and little crabs that are scuttling around in like side to side and fighting me that way out of water. And the music is incredible, and like the platforms under me are dropping out, and you're going through this multi-stage boss fight. And I just felt like, oh wow, this is as good as a boss fight that I would find in like a platinum game, if not better, right? Like better than some boss fights I had in fucking Astral Chain, that's for sure.
Well, okay, but like if you're going to use Astral Chain as like the way we talk about platinum, then you're handicapping them in a way that is like deeply unfair.
What's what I'm saying is like, platinum has hits, and there's good platinum, there's bad platinum, there always has been. This game has boss fights at least as good as mediocre platinum, if not better. I'm not saying that it's as good as Bayonetta platinum. I'm not out of my head, but I do think. But I think like the idea of like that fight had the sort of mechanics that made me go like, yo, someone really thought about this cool fight, and then they just dropped it in the world somewhere for me to stumble upon. It wasn't, which made it feel really special because it was just out there. And then I've hit other things like that multiple times, and that feeling is just like unsurpassed for me. It's one of my favorite feelings in video games, is discovering stuff. And so even though it's not hitting the notes of like my sword is breaking, or I feel like a deep melancholy as I look out onto the ruined landscape of a world that was once great but has been slowly destroyed by corruption and technologies that we don't have handle over, I still think this one's pretty good. I still think this game pretty fucking good. So yeah, Genshin Impact, PC, PS4, I really think it's worth your time. If you, what I keep telling people is like, give it 4 hours. Get past Paimon being aggressively like anime fairy voice, and get to the part where, if that's a problem for you, and get to like get off the plateau, right? Get through the first 3 shrines or whatever they make you do, and then just start kind of poking around in the open world. And I think if you liked that style of adventure, open world, game, I think you'll like it. So yeah. anything else? Anyone else playing anything that they want to talk about? I guess Hades is the other big thing. Like I keep checking on. Patrick, I know you wrote an article about how you're a traitor. I guess is how I would frame it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not how that's how you frame the tweet.
It. Yeah,
that is the hashtag traitor. Is one of the tags I put in the system for the filing the article.
Good
internally. I wrote a piece that it tries to like circle back around to my sort of indifference, I guess, to Spelunky 2, which if you've listened to our conversations about that game like leading up to it, I think my feelings playing it echo the feelings I had leading up to it, which was a lot of like I played Spelunky, like I think I'm good, like I'm pretty sure I'm good. And what happened was Spelunky 2 arrived. I had that kind of impression, which is pretty unfair to the game because the first like 5-6 hours are like a lot of like poking and prodding, and it's really like past that where you're gonna unpack what's really going on in a game like Spelunky and its sequel. But then just Hades came out of nowhere. It was like a haymaker. It was just like shut the fuck up, Spelunky 2, and just it's Spelunky 2 is not a revolution. It's a refinement of Spelunky, and that it didn't promise to be anything else. And so I don't hold that against it in so much as that helps explain a little bit of my sort of like, like I feel like I've kind of done this before, and it's different, but it's not that different. Whereas Hades is just, it's a combination of I did not have it on my radar whatsoever because I haven't particularly cared for the action elements of Supergiant stuff, and so when I was hearing, honestly, I kind of dismissed it. And a lot of people were like, "This game feels really good." I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure." Like, what's your definition of like it feels really good? Just because I think like on the Supergiant games, coast is the wrong word, but like a real part of the appeal is the soundtrack, is the characters, is the world, is the art. Like there is a lot that is really deeply appealing about each of their games, and the mechanics are sort of hit or miss. And I found the action stuff to be Bastion to be not particularly tight, and they haven't made a pure action game since Bastion. To be fair to them, Transistor had turn-based elements, and Pyre was like a sports game, really. And so, yeah, Hades is like a Bayonetta good action game. Like when we're like good platinum, like the best of platinum, like just like a really good character action game. Like Hades feels like you're playing a third person one of those. Like it just feels so unbelievably good to play. And then you throw in just like a fundamental rethinking of like the roguelike structure and like what the reward pattern is for that. And I just like did not expect to like Hades, not to like it, love it. Like outright to Game Informer putting on video, articles are like, what if is Hades Game of the Year? It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, come on, like don't put a question mark on that. Like Hades there's a good chance Hades is Game of the Year. Like that's where I'm at with this game. It's just really good.
It's really good.
I adore it.
We'll wrap back around next week, I think, once Skeeta is on, and my understanding is one Jason Kepler's also been putting some serious.
And once Patrick's mastered this aggro energy, he's suddenly bringing to the roguelike discussion. Wow. And then Hades is like, shut the fuck up, Spelunky 2. Hey, Game Informer. Bam, bam, bam.
Hades fills me with Hades.
Game's criticism just got critiqued.
It's
to put a pin on it is it's hard for me to get like capital F fired up about a game. Like it's just
you're like, chill. You're cool. You're collected.
All I do is think about Hades. I'm like head over heels for it, and it's just like it's fun, especially when you're in like our capacity as like critics and people that are like supposed to be like paying attention to things. Like you sort of like I don't want to say that like how you're going to respond to a game like before you play it, but like that is often true that you have a general sense of how you're going to respond to a game and you hope to be surprised. Mm-hmm. Like in Hades, just like part of the reason I have such a strong reaction is because I didn't expect this to happen, and now I'm finding it to be just a remarkable experience. So
it's really fucking good. It's there's some stuff that I wish they signposted a little bit better. I think there was a group chat we're in where all of us.
How does Titan Blood work?
How does Titan Blood work? We all independently seem to have come to that conversation in multiple places. So, like, hey, pro tip: if you've collected Titan blood, you can upgrade your weapons in that game
only after you've apparently collected all of the weapons, though.
Yeah.
You have to
is that
have.
true? Okay,
Wait,
that makes sense.
I believe
the
that's
skeleton
true.
tells you that after you
He
do the
does.
last round, right? Like that's I just hit that.
No, so he told me it. So the thing is, he told me about it early, and I could not figure out what the fuck he was talking about.
Because if you collect Titan blood, the game remarks on the fact that, hey, you have Titan blood. Like, I
you
think
might want to go use that, pal.
I think there's maybe an
he
expectation that you're going to collect all the weapons before you necessarily beat
Titan blood.
Meg.
Right.
Whereas, like, you know, if you do that, the game does remark like, you have Titan blood, you should be able to use that. But then, like, I have like 4 or 5 Titan blood at this point because I had like one run that went, you know, nearly all the way, and yeah, I didn't know what to do with it because it sounds like the game hasn't done the part where it sits you down and says, here's what you do with it, because you have gotten the guns, which I think is the last weapon that I need to unlock.
It was like after the gun, the skeleton was like, hey, it looks like your weapons there want something. Go check them out. But it was real vague. It was real fucking vague. I happened to go and hit the button and I was like, oh, there's the menu for Titan blood.
Rob?
We can either wind this podcast down or I can bail out because, so Mina gets her lunch in a bopper. Where
Excuse me, a what?
So
is that like a romper?
I was thinking more like bop it.
It's a plastic. It's a plastic like bulb with food in it, and the dog knocks it around and shakes the food out of it. It's noisy as hell. But this is how she gets her lunch. It slows down her eating. It entertains her. It buys me a little measure of peace in the afternoon. But it's noisy. So I've been putting off giving that to her for lunch because
it's fine. We're almost at 2 hours. We can wind down. Very, very briefly, I'll just say I played a little bit of Super Mario 35, like the Battle Royale game. I'll go into more detail about that on Monday, but I will say, like, it's really fun. And like the structure of it is that you're jumped into a group of 35 other Mario players. You're trying to get as far as you can, but it's not about beating the game. It's about like survival. And so you have enemies that are getting like tossed into your game and into other players' games. And you're being able to randomize, like bringing in items, and it makes the structure kind of interesting because you start out the game trying to sort of like amass items, and then as like the players whittle down, it's really just like, okay, I can go really slow now because I don't need to be getting further. Is not necessarily being better. It's just about like navigating the enemies slowly and waiting for someone else to make a mistake. And so it seems neat.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, Rob, I hope Mina gets her delicious lunch.
The dog is glaring. It's really something.
Incredible. All right. If you have questions, you can send them to gaming@vice.com. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Waypoint. Follow me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Rob, where can people find you besides trying to feed Mina before
Rob
she
Zachney
yells at you?
Or you can find me on your 6 in Star Wars Squadrons, because that's where I lived.
That's where you live now. We should play that game. I'm excited to play that game.
Yeah, I wanna.
Kato, how about you?
At @A_Kato_appears.
And Patrick.
At Patrick Klepek.
All right. As always, thank you to Bowen for letting us use the Miss You off the EP, Pale Machine. Never make a mistake on that one. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Until next week, fuck capitalism. Actually, beyond next week, fuck capitalism. Go home. All right.
I'll just say this. Kyle, you can keep this in, whatever. But like, I was getting like 5-6 KDA in Star Wars Squadrons because it was like these people didn't know shit, guys. They did not know shit.
Are these other journos that you're playing against?
That and like Star Wars
and
fans,
influencers.
Influencers.
Star Wars.
Either
fans.
way, look,
Star
just
Wars
fucking
fans.
scrubs.
You know,
okay.
Wow.
Like The thing is, you know how you stay alive in a dogfight? You maintain situational awareness. The minute you're like, oh, I'm gonna get that guy, I'm gonna duel with this guy. You know what you are? You're dead fucking meat. Because you know what I'm doing? I'm flying around at a distance, waiting to see, like, oh, this guy's engaged with somebody. He doesn't know anything anymore.
Yeah.
And just blah, blah, blah.
Rob sounds like he's talking about he's talking like a linebacker talking about quarterbacks who don't know how to get out of the fucking pocket. I love it. It's so
That's
good.
basically it. Just staring down their man, just waiting him to run that route. Meanwhile, I'm around the tackle. I'm coming.
Mitch Trubisky just got benched. We don't have to be that mean to him on this podcast.
Wow.
Too. But also, I feel like a couple of minutes ago, I was just attacked by Rob for my energy level, and then the pod goes off, and he's like,
look.
Can I bring that similar level of energy and Kato?
We're going to be the Angry Gamers podcast going forward.
Gaming needs another of those.
Yeah, gaming. We thought what gaming needed was more passion.
For angry gamers with a Z.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, but it's also for FOR because our podcast is for angry gamers. It's not just for, you know what I mean?
And a baby.
And yeah. The baby is us.
Baby.
What's Ted Danson doing these days?
Baby is here. What is Ted Danson doing these days?
He was in The Good Place, and he was good.
Yeah, but that's done. What's he doing now? Can he
I
come
don't
do the podcast?
Vibing.
That late career renaissance needs to continue. I need more.
No,
more
was
Ted Danson.
it? Wasn't there? Didn't we write off Ted Danson because he was a Buttigieg guy, right? Wasn't that
Right.
You look.
Right.
We all know
we're over that now.
I'm not over it. I mean, like he can come through still. I'm not
It's water under the dancing.
The world is.
God damn it.
I feel like I'm not ready. My heart is still wounded by that fact.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you know who's not going to be fucking president of the United States? Pete Buttigieg. So, Ted, come in. Bring it in, homie.
Secretary of Labor, Pete Buttigieg.
I fucking hope not. Oh, God. We don't want another bread cartel situation.
Love to have a McKinsey consultant as Secretary of Labor. How can I downsize the entire American workforce?
Exactly.
He's just going to get back to work on those bread prices.
Exactly. All right. We're going to end this podcast now. Thank you for joining us. Bye.
So do I need to go to the next room? Or because it says give. I only see give up.
Last saved. Oh, really?
Oh, clear this chamber to safely quit. I see.
There you go. We'll pause. We'll let you clear the chamber.
No, you go ahead. I'll talk through this. I'm ready.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Come on.
Okay. I didn't know how good you were at Hades.
Wow.
Come on.
We need to clap.
Yeah,
we also need to clap. So
can you clap while playing Hades?
I still can't see Rob. Is that just me?
No, I can't see him either.
Okay.
Not just you. Can we clap at 5 seconds?
Yeah.